to make it a topic that people think about more in the workplace. What we'll tackle here, we only have about 7 more minutes at this point, but hearing loss is a silent enemy, challenges and phases of program that I know everybody faces, what we do, and then kind of what really Soundtrace can do to help you get started, no matter where you are today. But I like to do this. It really sets the framing for this all. So if everybody wants to put in what are some favorite sounds they have into the chat. We've done this in the past, and for me, I have a 2 and a 5-year-old. Not being able to hear their voices would be tough. Cindy mentioned the ocean. I've heard somebody mention uh, uncorking a wine bottle, and so you think about sound. It's all things we can feel. Rex, I'm a big fisherman as well. Music is obviously something that comes up a lot, and imagine one day if you couldn't hear that at all, you couldn't hear that very well. Hearing loss isn't full deafness. That's a common misconception. This image here really just emphasizes what hearing loss really does to our brain. It's not a nuisance. It's a brain injury, and we should think about it from a cognitive health perspective. So, on the right, you have a healthy brain. This is green. It's the loads of activity. Think about being in a room and we're hearing all these little sounds. That's stimulation. When you start to lose your hearing, you don't hear those little sounds, and it's less and less stimulated, and that creates this dullness. And people think about, can I get hearing back with hearing aids? And I'm no expert, but what happens is the brain rewires itself and puts more emphasis on, being able to read lips rather than being able to hear. And so it is something that once we start to lose it, we can't really get back. And so you think about hearing conservation in your teams, it's not just another compliance requirement. It is truly a health and wellness perspective of employees. And there's a big, problem still that remains today. And so, OSHA introduced the program almost 45 years ago with the intent to curb hearing loss in the workplace. They saw it, the ill effects, and to this day, there's still a large percentage, roughly 1 in 4 workers, that still have noise-induced hearing loss in the workplace. And unfortunately, there's a lot of significant effects, on the brain, but also just in terms of costs for companies. And so, when I think about what drives Soundtrace, it's the health effects that you see here. Yeah, there was the 3M lawsuit a couple of years ago that kind of brought to light all the brain injuries that hearing loss can bring, and it's really dementia, Alzheimer's. Those are diseases that are being caused by hearing loss. It's not, again, just being able to not hear. Um, there is the health effects, for those employees, but there's also a significant impact just on the business in terms of increased insurance premiums. So, not to get into too much, but just by having a program and not actually focusing more on hearing loss prevention and tackling that untreated hearing loss, there's still going to be a high cost to the employee side, but also the employer side. And so that's really what we're focused on. Challenges we hear in the market with a lot of the way programs are managed today is that IHs do a great job, and but they are limited to 1 day surveys in most cases, and sometimes those are only occurring a couple times throughout the year. So do companies really have a good understanding of their exposure and all that? And then there's scheduling. Hearing tests can be a bit challenging, and then there's also this fact that a lot of those results are managed into PDFs or static files, and it's really hard to understand exactly, where employees are in their hearing patterns, and are they trending towards reactive STSs and even just hearing loss in general. There's various evolutions. I recognize, every company has different priorities, different needs. This is something what we've seen in the market. There's different phases, and we have had clients go from we don't have a program all the way up to employees are our biggest asset. Let's be proactive about this program. No matter where you are in your kind of phase today, really what we want to help do is help you get to phase 4, that proactive phase. But in a nutshell, what Soundtrace does is we're helping bring back all of the elements of the hearing conservation program as OSHA originally intended. So combining hearing testing, combining noise exposure, a fit check for earplugs. Are those being worn properly? That's not very common in the market today, and that's something we're encouraging more and more. We are leveraging AI to be a little bit more proactive in identifying hearing loss before an STS occurs, and then really the record keeping side and looking more into all that and what's the long term tracking of all these employees and their hearing records. Evan had a quick question about toxic chemicals. We don't have that today, but it is something that does show that there is more and more research coming out that just noise alone is not the cause of hearing loss. It's also the other chemicals in the air. I'm not an expert in that, but it is something we're working towards of combining that into the ill effects of hearing loss and what factors that can play. The Safety Balancing Act, I've talked with many teams. I'm sure you're all very familiar with this challenge of getting all your different departments involved in decisions, whether it's hearing conservation or other activities. Look, I recognize today budget, cost constraints, those are probably the biggest challenges. Safety Nights does a great job of emphasizing just how much budget does play in the role versus a safety. But those are all things that we've helped other companies tackle, and so don't want to view hearing conservation as a barrier from departments and feedback and blocking from other groups. Since we only have a minute left here, I know I really cruised through that, and when I think about what's helpful for next steps, if I am hosting a live demo this Friday. If you want to learn more about really what hearing loss can do as cognitive effects, we have our chief medical officer. He's an otolaryngologist. He'll be diving into that later this month, and then we can also have an introductory session with Soundtrace, myself, and our CEO, whenever, just to where you are in your program and how we can kind of help you this year and next year get back to do that proactive program that I mentioned. But appreciate the time here. I know I really cruised through that. 10 minutes really fly. So thank you to Safety Nights and everybody that listened. We'll be happy to take all of this offline. I'm sure my email will be available. And we'll go from there. But yeah, this is cool. Everybody enjoy it. And if you're new to Safety Nights, definitely follow along on LinkedIn. It's amazing what they're doing.
Thanks, Matt. Maybe if I had taken your advice early on, I'd be able to hear my kids when they're talking to me, or maybe I just have selective hearing. I'm not sure. I love your presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old, so I know. The one I'll leave it with this. At the end of the day, I think back 20 years from now, I go back to any moment in time to be where my kids are today, and just listen to your kids, be present. Work safety. There's a lot of pressure on everybody, but at the end of the day, your kids need to be with your kids. That's a very
Definitely. So Matt and Julia are hosting the discussion room, modern approach to hearing conservation. So I think these discussions are important no matter what industry you're in.